All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am in Grand Junction, Colorado, and I am joined by Dennis Poyer and Kevin Tim and of Seek Outside. And here we are in the gigantic factory, and we're going to get a little tour here. I just returned from, 5 days of elk hunting here, a few hours from Grand Junction with Dwayne. We were rocking the Cimarron with the medium-sized stove. Been using that on most of my hunts, although we used the Red Cliff the other day on the mule deer hunt, which is it was perfect for 3-man. But the teepees have been incredible. The stove has been awesome. I've used a couple other stoves that aren't on the same level. Like, they don't act like a true stove. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that today. Yeah. But we're going to go ahead and just kind of take a tour of the facility.
Okay. So, first off, this is our giant shop. Actually, we could use a little more space, but I'll give you a little bit of a tour. This is our retail area here. So when customers come in, a lot of times they say, hey, can you set up this tent for me or whatever? We'll set it up here. We have our packs lined up here. A lot of testing packs, a lot of packed shelters so you can see the size. We even have a blue gun if you need access to the blue gun. We're pretty modest around here. We have Western Mountaineering sleeping bags over there. Totally top shelf, so you can get pretty much outfitted soup to nuts here. This is kind of where we do the backpack assembling before shipping. So we have the screws, the other things. We have all the different little parts and pieces that we do finalizing before they go out the door. One thing I kind of want to, you and I have talked about this a little bit, Brian, and I think I've talked to Ryan about this as well. We're doing a lot of things in the pack world, so they show up a lot more ready to go at your when you get the box. So it should be a whole lot simpler to put it on and take it out and head out. I mean, before there was a lot of stuff that customers kind of needed to maybe go to our YouTube channel and figure out, and now they should be, within the next couple of weeks, should be much more like adjust your torso length and start walking, So, and things will be clearly labeled. Like you said, you had a bunch of stuff in your box, you didn't know what it was. Some of it is things like repair kits that have parts of these and things like that, so you can field repair, maybe extra compression strap, things like that. So lots of stuff. So as we go around the shop, this is kind of our main sewing area here. When we are busy and working, there's about 25, 30 people in here. We actually could use a little more space, but not really. It's comfortably fit at this moment.
You agree with that, Dennis?
Yeah, we're comfy. We're pretty tight. Yeah, for sure.
It's not as tight as we used to be. I remember at our old shop doing a podcast where we basically had everyone huddled around a tiny little table, and I used to go there and sit in a corner like the last year because we outgrew that shop so quickly. This one was cavernous when we moved in. Now it's comfortably tight. This here is our QA area. So we do QA a couple times during the process of, say, any sewn product. It'll usually get its initial sewing. It'll come back over here, be quality inspected, all signed off. Then it'll go on for finished sewing. Then it'll come back and be quality inspected again. So we really take a lot of pride in trying to be very detailed, also personalized. We sign who did the QA, who did the sewing, and finish sewing on your product and stuff. Over here we have some of our stove stuff going on, some of our more machinery-based stuff. We have the seam taper here. Over here we have some of our backpack foam. We use EVA foam. We also have some testing foams and stuff like that. Lots of stove pieces. As you see, stoves coming in. These all get configured, bundled up into what they are. And then early on, we used to make stoves in our basement at our house using hand tools. Some of them are around here still. Though that worked, that was great, but now we just move too many stoves. The amount of ultralight titanium we buy is several thousand pounds a year. It's a lot of ultralight material that we move through, and so now it's easier and much more precise to have them done by computer. They're folded on a computer folder that is pretty impressive in its size. You can set everything up on it. So there's very little error in that.
I've used a lot of backpacking stoves.
Yeah.
What I've noticed with your stove is that it actually operates like a real stove, like your wood stove in your house. And meaning I can damp it down.
It does.
And I can create a little draft and really get that thing just ripping hot, and everything will turn red, up the pipe and stuff. It's a lot of stoves. It's either full on burning and it's hot, or the fire's out.
You're an advanced user. You are. I would agree. I think we build by far the finest backpacking wood stove out there, right? However, that does not mean that we do not field complaints from customers saying, well, I can only get 45 minutes burn time or whatever. A lot of that is nuance and wood prep. I mean, at some level, if you just have sticks the size of your finger, they're not going to burn very long,
Yeah. Dwayne gathered the wood for us the first night, and I'm like, Dwayne, I'm going to have to just put wood in it all night long, just every 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. I was like, I need some bigger logs, especially to burn through the night. Those big chunks, they'll last way longer. But if I want to get that stove hotter, put a bunch of, thumb-sized sticks in there.
Exactly.
And it'll just get super hot. And then if I want to burn it, with a lower temp, I'll put a big fat log in there and damp it down. And I guess I take a lot of that for granted because I grew up with a wood stove.
Right. And I have a wood stove in my house too. And there probably is a fair amount of taking it for granted. You've grown up with it. You've used it. I generally break down 3 sizes of wood. Generally larger wood, very thin, say finger-sized wood, and then I'll have even smaller wood than that. And if I really want to get it going fast and hot, I put in the really small wood. And if I want to let it burn longer and stuff, I start putting in the bigger wood. And usually, myself, I will put bigger wood at the bottom even when I first start the fire. And then I will put smaller wood on top so that burns down into that and creates a longer burn right off the bat.
Yeah, and definitely you're up there in the mountains and you're just getting the wood that's available. And there's a big difference between from tree to tree and age, how long it's aged, how fresh it is. And that's where that's where I got a good 4-hour burn time when I was with Lampers hunting mule deer. Up here with Dwayne, I could get like 2.5. Right. And nothing was different except for the actual wood I was burning.
Right. If you have access to something like wood, oak, you'll get a totally different burn than you will from old aspen sticks laying around, right? Or white pine. So here's a lot of our fabrics. Right here. This is our main cutting table that we use primarily for cutting tents and cutting backpacks. A lot of backpacking components and tent components as well here. I really have to give a big shout out to Angie, my wife, Becca, our shop manager. All these little things are way beyond my ability to organize and pay attention to. Zipper. Yeah, we use a little bit of zipper on occasion. Zipper pulls, YKK. Here's a break room. One of the things that I am real proud about us as a company has been the culture. We have a nice break room. There's a lot of times where everyone will bring potluck and stuff like that. So there's a real strong community amongst our staff here working. There's also photos around and goofy stuff and discounts and all sorts of things. So,
and apparently a bunch of donuts.
And donuts. If anyone wants donuts, I tell you what this shop runs on: donuts and Mountain Ops Ignite. And we try and keep it fun around here as well,
Get that full stash here.
All day.
That's how we keep them selling. This is mostly more of our design area. It's also where we do a little more of the cutting edge stuff. Carve out some space here. But mostly this is design based here. So you'll see newer products around. As we're getting into this, we'll talk a little bit. This isn't really ready to be shown, but it's a prototype of a new pack called the Short Tail. It's more of a day hunting pack. Kind of went over that. Should be seeing more refined versions of that pretty soon. What are you digging through, Dennis?
Boxes and boxes of protos.
Yeah, boxes.
We got a bunch of
what is
stuff.
it again?
Just lots of prototypes, just pieces and parts. We got boxes of the stuff upstairs as well. We go through a fair amount of testing.
Yeah, we do. Trying to.
So, who's your most innovative person in the building, like with design?
This guy.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I'm always willing to push new concepts. At a fundamental level, you don't get some sort of substantive improvement if you stick to doing stuff the way everyone else has been doing it. You have to push the limits and bounds a little bit, and then you have to really validate them through testing. You and Lacey were doing a lot of testing on just the strength of different tie-out configurations and things like that, and we're always seeking to improve. I mean, like the saying we were talking about earlier from Vince Lombardi, the quote to paraphrase was, "We'll relentlessly pursue perfection and we'll capture greatness on the way." We all know perfection's unattainable, but we're going to keep trying to improve all the time. So let's kind of keep running through.
That's what I get to do. I get to break stuff. That's he gets to make it. I get to break it. It's fun.
Here's some of our pack sewing area. Some of our custom packs are sewn there. There's packs that are sewn all over here. This, we get into the office. I am not the big president kicking back in my own, running my little thing, going chunk, 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 chunk. No, Dennis sits there. Lacey sits there. We're all kind of a group here. One of the new things we get asked about a lot is flight bags. I don't know how many comments are on our survey are just take my money for the flight bag already. And we also see that on our Facebook group as well when people join as well. We're working on it. We have some jigs and some tooling that we need to do. And we have some special fabrics that we're in the process of ordering. We have to check a final sample of it. So there's a lot of prototype stuff here. Here's another flight bag. This one's flight 2. U-turn stove, which is fixing to come out. Right here, save you a little bit of weight and pack size. Let's just save about 12 ounces. Mm-hmm. So basically we are...
Wow.
Yeah.
Biggest thing you're going to notice is this one continuous piece, right? Instead of sides.
Right.
We have one piece, which is able to save just a bunch of weight in and of itself from the actual stove.
Huh. And that works.
It works. I was using one a couple days ago, burning.
Yeah, I used one second season. In all reality, we had this concept a few years ago. We discontinued it because it got much easier to just keep making the stoves we were. But we decided to pursue the 8 or 12 ounce weight savings. Mm-hmm. That's pretty substantive when you're talking lightening your kit. They pair excellent with like our Dyneema shelters. If you're really trying to go light, they really get light and they work really well with it.
And especially for these U-turns, just so these sides don't get crushed when you're packing it. The other thing we're doing, 2.5 inch pipe diameter, changing it up from our current 3 1/4. Which is going to save you a bunch of weight. By changing that stovepipe diameter down, we can save as much weight as we're saving in ditching the sides.
Any performance loss?
You don't make as much raw heat. However, in smaller to mid-size shelters, it really isn't an issue unless you're really talking bitter temperatures. This will heat a Cimarron down into teens, a Red Cliff probably more into the mid-20s. You lose a little bit of that top-end air movement, but that's about it.
Another thing we're going to do for people is we're going to sell this as a kit. So they're going to be able to get the side and convert their current medium or large stove in shed 6 to 8 ounces, depending. And then, again, be able to use their 3 1/4 inch. Just everything else they're going to get, they're just going to have a side, different sides.
So, what do you think? So, what's the finished weight with the reduction in pipe and the U-turn style sides instead of the other sides?
It's really close to 12 ounces, I think, somewhere around 12. Depends on how long your pipe is, for sure.
Dang, 12 ounces.
Yeah.
You're talking about. I mean,
And
you've already
that's
got a light shelter and light stove. Now you're talking almost same performance. That's like 40% lighter, 30%.
It probably depends on how big a shelter and how long a pipe, but it's a pretty substantive savings.
Yeah, and we're talking medium there, right?
Right.
So size medium stove. A couple things too. We used to use these kind of smaller pipe rings. We're going to do that as well, which is going to save some weight. Different stuff sack for people to put these in as well, which is going to save some weight in that overall weight, trimming it down substantially.
Can you weld these to the bottom? Or put like some kind of bar tack or what, like, I don't know what you'd call it. Something to keep those things from falling off and getting lost. These little things.
Yeah, you lose them.
Like, it's easy to unscrew them too far and then end up without them. I haven't lost them, but Lampers,
Oh yeah,
he's like a child.
yeah. That's what I've heard.
We'll see what we can do for him. Anyway,
Yeah. So we also can tell that this is Dennis's desk here. There's bows and things like this. So when people, we do spend a fair amount of time out in the field. We have some photos here over time of different products. Sometimes this guy hauled this sheep out 16 miles in the Brooks Range. So yeah, that's a pretty stout pack out. Especially when you're dealing with those tussocks and everything there, right? Nothing else really to see in here. There will be the Seek Outside ground sheet at some point. This is a different type of house wrap, but you see that it has a little bit of a grippy part to it, so it's a little bit different than Tyvek. Well, now it adds a slight bit of weight versus Tyvek, but a lot of times, especially with the inflatable pads, we found out that it's really easy to slide yourself off the mountain and stuff as well. So it has little bumps and stuff, and we feel that helps in that regard. These should be available shortly. There's also a fair cost reduction. You don't have to buy a sewn sheet from us. This makes it easier for you.
Yeah, I've been using your ground tarp, and I really like it. It's very large and lightweight at the same time. But it's really easy. When I was with Lampers on the mule deer hunt, there were these little tiny spiky little plants that were growing up where we were setting up shelter, and we're kicking, trying to get everything cleared out. But it's really easy for that spike, those little tiny spikes, to find their way through that little tarp. And then you can find it into my little Thermarest Neolite Air.
And the air finds its way out of the Neo Air.
And then I freeze my butt off. So
and then your tent mates are like, awesome, man. Brian is stoking the stove for us because he's awake all night.
Out of survival, I had to stoke the stove every 3 or 4 hours.
What they wouldn't like though is if you start saying, "Hey, man, you want to spoon a little bit? And, can I get on your Can I get on your pad a little?"
What I noticed though was a Tyvek type of ground cloth is that much thicker to keep that puncture out.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about, in certain hunts, I like the ground tarp. It keeps me dry. But where I'm dealing with spiky cactus type stuff, I think I'd like a piece of Tyvek or something that's got that thicker material, kind of but basically what this stuff is.
I'm also going to give you another solution as we kind of run down this line too, okay? Here's stuff that's getting ready to ship. I think these are probably retailer orders and military orders. So these are bigger ones. Nothing to see there. Now we're going to get over to another potential solution. It used to be called something else, but now it's called Maddie McMatt Face or something like that. You want to go ahead and explain it?
I can explain the name. Our Facebook group voted. We had to rename it. It was a copyright of some sort. And so we had to rename it. They voted. Maddie McMatt Face is our new mat. But just a thin piece of is it EVA?
Yeah,
for sure.
EVA.
Yeah, super thin piece of EVA. As big as our ground sheet.
Yeah, it's 40 by 7 feet or something like that. 42 inches by 7 feet. So it's substantial. But that will really help minimize. And then
it's comfy.
It also
warmer.
It adds a little bit of warmth for sure.
Yeah, and if you flip it over, if you were the unfortunate person that had a hole in your pad, you can flip it over from 1/8 and it ends up being 1/4 inch. And if you wanted to, you could flip it over again to where from the torso on up, you would end up with about a 1/2 inch pad, which would help you get through the night without having to snuggle with Ryan or anyone.
Whoa, that is light.
So
it's not what I expected. How much does the ground tarp weigh?
Ground tarp is probably 7-8 ounces.
Yeah, I would have.
And the new sheet we showed is going to be about 8 ounces. They're all about somewhere in that 8 ounce range, pretty close.
Huh. Can you roll that out? Can I take a look
Yeah.
at that? Pretty big.
It's pretty big, but you can double it up, right? So you could fold it this way. To
If you get into a situation where your pad just isn't holding air
Yeah.
and you want to convert it from more of a ground sheet to a sleeping pad,
Yeah.
but there's your standard Thermarest. This one looks like maybe it's a little on the short side, but you get an idea.
So that's a lot more puncture resistant. It's just thicker. And it just seems like it'd be nice and warm on the snow.
It does add a little bit of warmth, so I mean,
And then if the pad didn't slide, my
right.
my air pad wouldn't slide on this.
No.
Can you put some grommets or anything in here to like stake it down? I usually stock a rock, a big heavy rock right there or
You
something
know-
if I want to keep my pad from moving. But
That's something I would like to see. The thing is that you probably are going to get into a spot where if you put a big hole, you might make it rip a little bit.
right.
So we'll probably do a little bit of experimentation, but it might just be what it is, you know. So, like I said,
I
we're
like
going
it.
to pursue perfection. We might not get it, but hopefully we get greatness along the way. So,
Again, you could fold it in half and then fold it
yeah.
again, and you have a 1/2-inch torso pad. So, worst case scenario, your air mat goes flat.
And you have no fix for it, you know.
You still
You know,
pretty warm.
something you could probably
I
put
would
it
have
back down.
loved something like that. I like any kind of gear that can serve two purposes if it needed to.
Right.
You know, when you're back there, that's genius. That is very, very thick. That's plenty warm. And if I had that, I'd have actually got some sleep.
I had a leaky air pad issue as well on my hunt during second season, so I understand. I was able to go about an hour and a half and then wake up and blow up my air pad. And I was thinking, dang, I wish I would have brought what's his face, Matty
You could also make it into a sit pad, right? So it could double, triple.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking too, because we'll bring a butt pad or something you can throw down when you're
Yeah.
glassing. But with this setup, you could very easily just you strap that on the back. Ryan's brought that.
Yeah.
And these were great too. Right?
But he just got a little chunk of it. This folds out so much larger. But then to be able to sit on that while you're glassing,
Yeah,
this
that
is a lot
serves
more
more
comfortable
purposes.
too. So you'd have your butt pad, you'd have your sleeping pad, and your ground cloth. You could be any three of those if it had to be.
Yep.
It's not very heavy, man. It's just super light.
I think
thought it
7
would be.
ounces. About 7 ounces. So,
Yeah, comfy.
How much will that be?
$42.
All right.
Not bad at all. Then finish off the tour here. We have our upstairs meeting room up there, which is also currently a photography room, I believe. Repurposed. Stove parts. This is kind of where we put stuff that's sort of stocked that starts to get pulled for orders. Carbon fiber. More carbon fiber than you can shake a stick at. More carbon fiber. More carbon fiber. And more carbon fiber. And then I'm not quite sure what this is. But customer service area. Angie's office. Becca's office over there. This is kind of our shipping area here. So that's the basic tour.
Pretty sweet place. I'm actually. I think this will be very interesting for folks. All right, let's sit down and let's continue the conversation.